What's up, guys? Nate Ramsey here with Garrett Chappell for another episode of What's Your Thoughts?
Howdy.
On today's episode, I want to talk about picking the right taxidermist. What's your thoughts?
A little Carlton.
You know there's going to be a little
there.
gag reel of this later, right? I'm saving this mess. So, what's your thoughts on picking the right taxidermist or picking a taxidermist?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into that, and I think it's a topic for waterfowl hunting, and not just waterfowl, any kind of hunting that gets overlooked. People don't.
There's a lot of people that's spent a lot of money.
A lot of
garbage.
Money. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes down to trial and error. Sometimes trying different ones out. I know I've been to several different people for mainly birds, but I mean, I've had one guy that's always done all my deer, and here recently he's kind of got sick and is not able to do it. So I'm having to kind of venture out there.
Yeah.
But once you kind of get that taxidermist that you like using, that, does good work, and, they're quick. I mean, we've had some, I know you have, and I have too, had some experiences where you go to a taxidermist and you're dropping off, a bird or a deer or whatever, and then next thing you know, it's like it's 2 years later, and you're looking like, hey, you still got my animal, or what's up? Or but I think a lot of that goes into like one thing that I look for is being able to talk to one. I don't know if you remember back in the day, I used to live not far down the road from a guy that did taxidermy, and I'd go up there and hang out in his shop. He'd let me come out there and see what he's doing, and I'd make him some plaques. I did a lot of woodwork, and he was a very personal person. He was also a very professionalist, I guess you could say, like perfectionist, whatever that word is.
Yeah, there you go.
He's looking for that, and he wouldn't let something leave unless it was perfect. Like I would sit there and look at it, like, dude, that looks great. He's like, no, I'm not happy with it. Yeah, which could be a good thing and a bad thing. I guess it could drag out if somebody's too bad on it, but I mean, he would really took pride in what he did.
Yeah.
I've also had some birds that I've got back that were supposed to be a mallard, and they got a gooseneck on them.
Seen it done.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those, like, it's a hard thing to go through, and especially when you're talking about taking, especially if you kill say you kill a duck or a goose that's, a rare bird that you've always wanted, and you kill it, there's a lot of pressure to take that bird to a taxidermist now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you might not get another shot at that.
Right.
So, like, what's your quirks? Like, what's something you're looking for in a taxidermist, whether it's for, I guess for you, it'd only be for birds, but.
Yeah. So for me, I can only speak on waterfowl because I've never taken anything aside from that to a taxidermist. But I've also looked at a lot of people's turkey work because it's still a goal of mine. I do want to eventually get a full body, turkey done. So for turkeys, I'll start there since I just said that. The number one thing that I look at, if I don't have a taxidermist in mind, the first thing I want to do is I want to look at pictures of their work. Yep. Because a lot of times these guys might not be local. So the best way to do it is to look at their work online, look at their pictures. Mm-hmm. For a turkey, the first thing I look at is the head. Yep. To me, the number one thing that stands out on a taxidermist when it comes to turkeys is how good do they do the head. I personally when I do take it, I'm not going to take it to a taxidermist that use an artificial head, only a freeze-dried head. Because you can't get more real than the real thing. So turkeys is pretty simple to me. Look at the head. Are they using a real one or are they using a fake one? And you can usually tell.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
So when it comes to waterfowl, the couple things that really stand out to me to how I can tell if somebody is really good versus somebody who might not be as good, the two things I look at immediately is the neck and the feet.
Yep.
Look at
I've
me,
seen some feet that are kind of like,
if somebody's going to butcher a bird mount, a waterfowl, they're either going to butcher it in the neck or they're going to butcher it in the feet.
Now that you mentioned that, like feet, I've seen a lot of birds on a wall that like, oh, that looks good, and you get close, you're like,
yeah, and
I should hit them.
I'm not gonna name drop anybody because
I'm not here to badmouth nobody for it. I'm just talking about picking one.
Yeah, and I don't have a ton of birds done, but so I can only speak off the ones that I have done. The prime example of that would be like I have a pintail that's done. The pintail looks freaking great. Feet, not so much. Luckily, the feet don't really stand out in the mount. But if you looked at it, I could see like that's where I can find the flaw. Like, he should have spent a little more time on those feet, you know. But to me, that's the two things that I look for. Like, that's
one thing I guess that stands out to me when it comes to like ducks is positioning.
Yeah.
And you can tell someone who does a lot of duck hunting or who's done a lot of mounts. Like I've seen some ducks in some weird positions, and sometimes that's personal preference. People want them that way.
Yeah.
But like you just see things that don't look right. Like say you got one cupped up, committed, barely legal, but he's got the neck just looking all in a weird way that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've filmed and shot a lot of ducks, and I just never seen one do some weird, cockamamie thing that he's doing with his neck. And that stands out weird to me. And I think a lot of that comes back to people who've spent a lot of time either photographing and or shooting ducks.
Sure.
And they see what they do. But like I said, my biggest thing is just being a personal experience, being able to talk to somebody, because I've been to many taxidermists that I've gone in, dropped off my bird or whatever, and they're like, all right, just sign your name here. All right, have a good day.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I mean,
yeah, well,
I got a lot of pride in what I just dropped you. I really like to, and I get sometimes you can't stop your work, but being able to at least make you feel like, hey, I understand it might be a rare animal for you.
Sure.
Or, you've always wanted this bird. I'm going to try to take care of it and make sure it look best as I can.
Yeah.
And some people give you that vibe. Some people don't.
Yeah. So first step would be looking at their work, right? And I think we hit a couple key things of stuff to look for. The second thing, I think the main things that pop in my mind is looking at their work first, finding somebody that you would trust based off of their work. Okay, I can tell they know what they're doing. Second's going to be price point. Third's going to be turnaround time. Now, I look at those things, but it's not how you would think. I wouldn't suggest going with the cheapest person you find.
No.
I wouldn't suggest going with the person with the quickest turnaround time.
No.
So factor in those things of, I'm the kind of guy that kind of likes to just kind of go middle of the road. I don't necessarily want to pay $1,000 for a duck, but if somebody says I'll do it for $100, I'm probably not going to do that either. So I think finding that middle ground there. I mean, think about your budget, how much you want to spend, how valuable is that duck to you. Yeah. You travel across the country and shoot a harlequin. I might go to that guy that is the most expensive guy in town.
And that comes back to another point.
Or in that case, somebody in North Carolina might not be mounting a harlequin.
That's what I'm saying. That goes back to knowing people that know how to do that bird.
Right.
If you do kill like swan or something like a harlequin or something that's
very area
specific, that might not be the person to take to someone
that might be
never
something
done
that
one.
gets shipped to somebody.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to consider is how valuable is that bird to you? That might justify how much you're going to spend. And then the turnaround time, obviously, like you want it back quick, because it's hard to go drop however much money you end up spending and then be like, all right, well, we got to wait 2 years,
I think most average taxidermy, whether it's birds, deer, turkey, whatever I've talked to, usually it's like that year mark.
That seems to be
your
pretty
safe bet for your year. If it's over that, if it's 16 months, 14 months, whatever.
Right.
You start hitting the 2 year mark, you're kind of like, hey, dude, you forget about
I'm
me?
personally not going to wait 2 years. To me, that's too
push.
much. And I have dropped off birds that have taken that long, and
I
was upset about it because I'm like, first of all, they told me I'm going to update you through the whole process to let you know where I'm at, and then it was one of them, never heard nothing, and then so I kind of shy away from something that's going to take that long. I think the year, maybe even if it goes into 14, 15 months, but I'd say that year and a half is like a cutoff for me. Now that's just me. But I think I would try to find something around a year. If somebody says I can do it in 9 to 10 months, that'd be great. If somebody says I can get it to you in a month, obviously that means this guy doesn't have a lot of work. And there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah.
So, think about that. I think finding the middle ground on all of it is the safe bet. That's just kind of how I do it.
Where we are right now. And we got several things at taxidermy right now. I mean, me and you both, you know, we've there's several taxidermy around us, but we've been through them, and not saying they're bad or good, but we have our preferences, and we actually drove an hour and a half up the road, I think.
Right.
And we both dropped off birds. You have a little bit more pricey taxidermy bill than I do right now because you got 4 at one time. But we've got I took a pintail and I think a speckle belly. You took 3 mallards and a spoonie.
Yep.
We dropped all those off with Keith Bundy at Keith's Wildlife Works.
And how that happened was that was a word of mouth recommended from
a buddy.
From a buddy that we just happened to see some of his work, and we was like, man, those look really good. Who did those? And then that's when he recommended him, and that was, well, this is even better than looking at pictures. Like, I got to look at his work in person, and I was like, if he can do that, that's my guy. So
we'll see.
Here we are.
We haven't hit that year mark yet, so I'm anxious to get them both back.
Oh yeah.
And then, like I said, now I've tallied up my taxidermy bill, and when I was in Oklahoma, and that was sketch, dropping off somebody I've never met before, but I dropped my deer off at Wicked Ridge Taxidermy.
And that kind of went the same way. That's another word of mouth. Like, that's the guy that our buddies in Oklahoma use.
Well, they use a couple different people, but that was somebody he was familiar with. And like, I'm super excited about those guys because, like I said, they took the time to stop and talk to me and just, hey, where you from, blah, 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 and, kick it with me for a little bit. Made me feel confident they took pride in what they did and they were going to take care of me. So I'm excited to get that back, and my goose and duck. So I got all kinds of things on the board.
Cool.
I'm out of wall space, but.
Well, cool deal, guys. That's pretty much wraps it up. Let us know.
What's your thoughts?
We'll catch you on the next one.